מושג עם יהיה אוכל. אין לי שמץ של מושג. מה שאני עושה עכשיו, אני חופר את הקבר. הקבר שמיד מבחינתי לי. כי קודם... מה יקרה עם זה? אני כבר לא אוכל, לא יודע כמה ימים ברצף. אני נמצא פה במצב מאוד 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 קשה. יש יותר. מבחינתי זה נראה שאני בדרך למוות שלי.
In Gaza's shadows, a hostage speaks, starved, trembling, near collapse. Hamas calls diplomacy a show, while civilians and captives pay the price. As leaders clash and cameras roll, the crisis deepens beyond the front lines. Now, the question echoes, who will save the hostages before it's too late? Hamas has rejected claims it intends to disarm, reaffirming its commitment to armed resistance so long as Israeli occupation persists. In a statement issued on August 2nd, the Palestinian group said its struggle is protected by international law until Palestinians achieve national rights, including the creation of a sovereign state with Jerusalem as its capital.
We will not disarm as long as the occupation exists. The American administration is a full partner in the crime of starvation and genocide. Witkoff's visit was nothing more than a prearranged theatrical performance to provide Israel with political cover for managing starvation and continuing the systematic killing of children and unarmed civilians from our people.
The statement came in response to US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, who during a visit to Tel Aviv claimed that Hamas had expressed willingness to demilitarize. Hamas called those remarks false and criticized Witkoff's visit to a Gaza aid site run by the US and Israel-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. Labeling the envoy's tour a theatrical performance, Hamas accused the United States of enabling a humanitarian crisis in Gaza. The group cited the deaths of civilians near GHF's aid distribution points, asserting that the American government shares responsibility for what it called the crime of starvation and genocide. Israel, which backs GHF's operations, denies targeting civilians and blames Hamas for staging attacks near aid centers and manipulating casualty numbers. The Israel Defense Forces have acknowledged Palestinian civilian deaths near GHF locations and say new instructions have been issued based on lessons learned. Meanwhile, the IDF confirmed it had eliminated Salah al-Din Za'atra, deputy commander of Hamas's Al-Furqan battalion, on July 24th.
On July 24th, the IDF struck and eliminated the terrorist Salah al-Din Za'atra, who served as the deputy commander of Hamas's Al-Furqan battalion. Za'atra previously served as the commander of the battalion's combat support company and was responsible for directing and carrying out numerous terrorist attacks against Israeli civilians and IDF troops in the Gaza Strip.
A newly released video of Israeli hostage Evyatar David, approved for publication by his family, shows him pale, visibly emaciated, and describing severe food deprivation while in Hamas captivity. The footage, which emerged on August 1st and was cleared in full on the next day, includes David speaking in a weak voice and digging what he says he fears may become his own grave. In the video, David points to a calendar marking days without food and says his diet has consisted mainly of lentils and beans. At one point, he holds up a can, reportedly meant to last 2 days. His remarks appear dictated and are framed by his family as evidence of deliberate starvation.
יומיים ברצף. אחרי זה אכלתי עדשים, עוד פעם עדשים. יום ראשון, 27, לא אכלתי כלום. אחרי זה עדשים, אחרי זה עוד פעם לא אכלתי כלום. עדשים, עוד פעם לא אכלתי כלום.
David's family described him as a living skeleton buried alive and accused Hamas of using him as part of a cynical hunger campaign. They called on Israel and the international community, specifically Trump, to take urgent steps to ensure that humanitarian aid reaches all hostages, not just Gaza's general population. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, in a statement following extended conversations with the families of David and fellow hostage Rom Braslavsky, expressed deep shock at the footage. Netanyahu said that while Israel permits aid into Gaza, Hamas is deliberately starving hostages and civilians alike, exploiting the situation to spread propaganda. Netanyahu urged world leaders to condemn what he referred to as criminal and abusive conduct by Hamas.
I spoke at length this evening with the families of the hostages Rom Braslavsky and Evyatar David. I expressed to them my deep shock at the harsh footage published by the Hamas terror organization. I told them in the clearest way, we are continuing the effort to bring back all the hostages, relentlessly, with determination, and without tire. On behalf of my wife Sarah, I conveyed to the families a big embrace. She is heartbroken over the harsh and incomprehensible videos that were published. The cruelty of Hamas knows no bounds. While the State of Israel allows the entry of humanitarian aid to the residents of Gaza, Hamas terrorists deliberately starve our hostages, documenting them in a cynical, humiliating, and malicious manner. They also deliberately starve the residents of the Strip. They prevent aid from reaching them, and then lie to the world and conduct a false propaganda campaign against Israel. I call on all the countries of the world, stand against this Nazi-like abuse. Do not stand by. This is a moral test.
The footage of Evyatar David has intensified international pressure as families and Israeli leaders call for urgent action to end hostage suffering and expose Hamas's treatment of captives and civilians. After Hamas released the disturbing footage of hostage Evyatar David appearing severely emaciated, Israeli Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich dismissed it as a manipulative tactic aimed at pressuring Israel to halt its military campaign. Smotrich stated that Israel would not succumb to emotional coercion and vowed to continue the fight against Hamas with full force. Criticism, however, is mounting from across the political spectrum. Former IDF Chief of Staff and National Unity MK Gadi Eisenkot accused Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his cabinet of a grave moral failure. Eisenkot called for an immediate comprehensive hostage deal, even if it requires a permanent ceasefire. Opposition. Leader Yair Lapid also took aim at the government's priorities. He noted that the upcoming cabinet agenda once again includes a discussion on threats to the Prime Minister's life, but omits any mention of the hostages. Lapid, while condemning any threat against Netanyahu, argued that the real danger lies with the lives of hostages like David.
I obviously condemn any threat to the Prime Minister's life, but he is the most secure person in Israel. I suggest replacing this topic with a discussion about the far more real threats to the life of Evyatar David.
Public calls for action have grown louder. Yair Golan, leader of the Democrats, urged citizens to protest daily until all hostages are freed, citing the urgency of their deteriorating condition.